Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dez Bryant and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 51. He's Dez Bryant. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. And Dave, we are still here Wednesday. We have still yet to play a game. Hopefully that will change in a little bit this afternoon. While the Ravens COVID outbreak appears to still be ongoing, the NFL's patience has appeared to end. They cannot postpone this game really any further. And so despite more positive COVID cases in Baltimore, the show must go on. And so we are anticipating, not guaranteed, but anticipating the Steelers-Ravens playing at 3:40 p.m. Eastern time today.
Boy, the Groundhog Week continues on here, and
even Bill Murray would be like, something seems weird at this point.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem right.
But as Uncle Dave has always said, it's all about the money. You know, my old man sat me down when I was like 6 or 7 years old, Alex, and I can remember still to this day having that talk about and him telling me, he said, Dave, it's always about the money, and don't everything is about the money, and don't think otherwise. When in doubt, it's always about the money. I just remember that vividly as a kid, and I think that's going to end up holding true. And look, people will say, well, no, it's not about all. It's not all about the money, because if so, it would have been played on Thanksgiving night. Well, that's not necessarily true here, because you remember that the networks have already bidded and paid for this, okay? So that as long as the game takes place, that's money that's been in the bank. And as long as, and I would assume NBC has long sold their advertisements off for this game as well too. So as long as the game takes place, that's money in the bank here. So the NFL's just got to make sure they deliver the product now, and that meaning to have this game take place this week, and this week obviously is now technically run into next week, but it is all about the money. If they're just going to turn their head with these two latest tests and try to pawn these things off, he was high risk or high, I forget what term they use, but and they socially distance at their walkthrough on what was yesterday, Tuesday, and then that's why there's not that concern. We all know that. I mean, that's a bunch of BS. That's just that's just an excuse to say, well, we're out of days.
It's really what it means.
So look, you and I probably one of our better podcasts, and I've heard from quite a few people on the Twitter machine and email as well too. I think the podcast that we did a couple episodes ago talking about the NFL and transparency and all like that, that might be one of our better shows of 2020, Alex, because I think that's something that needs to. I think what all has happened up to date, with COVID and all like that. Look, I mean, we're asking each other questions via DM, I and Matthew about, man, did this guy go on the list here? When did he test positive? I understand the whole HIPAA thing and privacy and all like that. But if you're going to be that private, then don't tell me that a guy has a knee injury on the injury report. That kind of thing there. So it's all about the money, Alex.
Of course. Yeah, and I think the lack of transparency that you talked about is really coming into focus based on what's happened in the last 48 hours where, listen, when they moved the game from Thanksgiving and kind of what the NFL dealt with, late last week, I was trying to be empathetic and sympathetic to the situation because it's a difficult situation for any organization to deal with right now. What is the right move to make? But
the older you get, the less you'll lose that sympathy.
That cynicism will take over for sure.
Yeah.
But the last 48 hours, I think I've become the cynic because the decisions are baffling. Where it seemed like the outbreak had stopped in Baltimore, where they didn't have positive tests. The one positive test they had was reportedly someone on IR, not around the team. Yet the game got pushed back again from Tuesday to Wednesday, and that seemed to be at Baltimore's lobbying to get in practice, and they didn't feel like they were ready to play. But that works against the NFL's written memos, basically basically saying that readiness is not an issue. Where Denver had to play with a receiver playing quarterback, and so now you have more positive case though on Wednesday, and there's still or Tuesday I guess when the results came in, and now they're gonna play the game anyway. So it's just obviously inconsistent. It's illogical, and as you said, it's about just getting this game played and making money.
And look, I mean, I understand how we've gotten to this point. The league wants to at least give the appearance that they're trying to do the right thing in this. Do I think that maybe the Ravens players kind of twisted the arm of the league a couple of days ago by allegedly threatening that wildcat strike and yada yada? Sure, I'll believe that. Okay, but look, they know they knew that they had the NFL kind of over the barrel a little bit in that situation, and it would probably make it look a little bit better, at least on the league side, to say, okay, well, one more day. Obviously, the most discouraging thing here is now the Steelers have been on the other end of this, as we've talked about countless times, and this just isn't the first time. You go back to Tennessee earlier in the season. I mean, at no point do I think this is any kind of conspiracy against the Steelers. And look, say what you will, yeah, Steelers got to play 3 games in 18 days since they played the Jaguars. Well, look, if you look anyway, they were scheduled to play. They were scheduled to play 3 times within 18 days anyway. Mm-hmm. But it got moved, okay, in that essence. Still, is that fair to the Steelers? Absolutely not. Is that something that could be somewhat troublesome to the team, as we've talked about with mindsets of players, and yeah, they sort of kind of maybe didn't really have a mini bye week this week? Yeah, absolutely. But it's just, I hate to keep going back to this, but it's just part of us living in this COVID world, and the NFL saying right from the start, basically that all things aren't going to be fair. It's just that it's given the appearance that most things not fair have been against the Steelers today. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just hope the NFL hasn't opened up Pandora's box by setting this potential precedent where the Ravens kind of got to dictate terms of this thing.
They did. They did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, I just wonder if the next team is going to try to follow that, seeing what the NFL's done with Baltimore. And really, Baltimore, in a way, had a better outcome by having an outbreak of cases where Denver had 1 positive case with their quarterback and they still had to play. Baltimore had 20, 30 positive cases, and they kind of got maybe a better outcome in the sense of the NFL working with them more than they say their lack of work with Denver. But I guess that's to be determined down the road.
Right, and transparency and firmer rules, and maybe having already put in place a week 18 or as an emergency, should have been done.
Mm-hmm. It's just crazy that, again, they had a Ravens player at practice test positive, reportedly Geno Stone, a rookie safety. And I know it was a socially distanced walkthrough. What exactly that means, I don't know, because walkthroughs, you got to have some element of coming together as a team. And the Ravens didn't find out until they were on the plane, and they're just like, well, we're going to play the game anyway, even though we said if they're positive cases, we have to postpone. That's the reason why this game is on Wednesday in the first place, and yet they're still going to play.
And all this about soft tissue and muscle, and what was that all about if you're just going to do a glorified walkthrough?
Right. Hamstrings are saved because they walk around in practice for 6 months.
And look, that's something to now consider going into this game. Are we going to see, especially on the Ravens side, see that, and are they going to afterwards be saying, "See, we told you we lost 2 players early in the game to hamstring strains and all like." Look, sure, they are the root of the problem, the strength and conditioning coach and yada yada, and we don't know how protocols were followed closely after that. It sure seems like this thing has run longer than any of the outbreaks we've had in the NFL this year. But there are some innocent bystanders in all this. Several Ravens players obviously probably doing what's expected and what the protocols slated to be. And I understand several of them probably taking issue with, man, we haven't had time to practice, and now you want us to get out there an hour and a half before game time and run around and get stretched out, and then go out there and play our division rival who's probably chomping at the bit right now as well too. So anyway, how nice will it be to maybe, I'm gonna use that word maybe, put this behind us a couple hours from now?
It will be nice to talk about football again. And so let's kind of get to some news here related to everything, obviously, with COVID-related stuff. Now, the Ravens, obviously, ideally wanted to play this game week 18 so they could get, hopefully, their whole team back. But even trying to push this game back, the little bit they have really has probably not added too many reinforcements for them. Maybe a couple of guys, but some players who are eligible to play from a COVID standpoint, who are not expected to play, include nose tackle Brandon Williams, who was activated from the reserve COVID list yesterday, but has an ankle injury, and he will not play. And the reporting is on Wednesday morning that running backs Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins, two of the first Ravens to go on COVID list last week, are not expected to play and actually are still in Baltimore right now. So they will not have Ingram or Dobbins. That means Gus Edwards will be really their lead back in this one.
Yeah, pretty interesting developments there. Now, look, even though Dobbins and Ingram, were maybe, I don't know how you want to frame that, coming off the COVID list, obviously those moves couldn't happen on Tuesday, but they were slated to happen today. We'll see at this point, is there really a reason for them to activate them off the list right now? Probably not, because once you do, you use up a roster spot, yada yada, that kind of stuff. We already kind of got the sense that Gus Edwards was still going to have a pretty big role in this game, regardless. I think it's a lot to ask guys like Dobbins and Ingram to come off that list without practicing, without going through the walkthroughs, and then instantly, playing, I don't know, the 50% combined 50% of snaps. So anyway, that's not huge there. But Brandon Williams, this is a guy that on top of it, here's what my thoughts going into this. Even though Brandon Williams was slated to come off the COVID list and speculation that he would at least dress and play in this game, he wasn't going to play a lot. This is a guy coming off of an ankle injury that big guy that I think there's been a little bit of questioning about his conditioning, in the past as well too. So, but even so, that's a big development because that's a guy in the middle of that defensive line that could have eaten up maybe a few snaps in there. So,
right.
And then obviously, not having depth at the running back position could play pretty big into this, even though Gus Edwards has had some nice string of successful runs against the Steelers, which we've already talked about in previous previews there. So, look, this is a Ravens team. People were all fearful that this pushback and all like that would play in the Ravens' favor with getting players back. Who have they really gotten back at this point that wouldn't have been able to play on, I don't know, pick a rescheduled date. Yeah. Pick a date, any date. Sunday, they've got some backup players. They got 4 players back, I believe. Yesterday? And 2 of those players had to revert immediately to IR because they're already dealing with injuries. So,
right.
Could Steelers fans have been making a mountain out of a molehill here? Surely that wouldn't be true.
Well, I understood the frustration, and there's still maybe more guys activated today for all we know. I don't know how likely that is, but the players that they've gotten back that I think are going to play that are most significant include outside linebacker Jalen Ferguson, defensive tackle Broderick Washington, maybe DJ Fluker, who'd play right tackle for them. He's questionable, I think, with an injury, but my guess is he's going to play. Tyree Phillips also activated from injured reserve. He's played some right guard for Baltimore this season. So they have gotten a couple of reinforcements, but of course this team's going to be without their most significant pieces, whether you're talking tight end Mark Andrews, quarterback Lamar Jackson, the running backs we just mentioned, outside linebacker Matthew Judon, who's going to play about a quarter of the series this year between the Steelers and Ravens after getting ejected in the first game. So there's a couple of reinforcements, but still, obviously, the Ravens roster has been pretty depleted here.
Yeah, Willie Snead. You didn't mention Willie Snead. He's gonna be out of this, and they are going to at some point today. They don't have, I don't think, any active tight ends on their roster right now, right? So
yeah, they have not done their roster elevations yet, correct?
Right, and they have, I believe, the league's. I think there was a report on Tuesday that those had to be done by 12:30 Eastern.
Okay, yeah, that's what I saw.
And obviously we're still waiting for maybe the Steelers to make that Wendell Smallwood move. It's hard to imagine that wouldn't happen, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I guess technically, you don't have to have a 53-man roster going into a game. So, and they only have to dress, technically, or they can dress up to 48 players. I don't know. Maybe it's not guaranteed. I just find it hard to imagine that they go into the game with just 2 running backs and a fullback, right?
Especially whenever it's a rookie in McFarland and a second-year guy in Benny Snell. I mean, yeah, to have only 2 running backs in this circumstances, I would expect Smallwood to get elevated before kickoff.
Right, and when the Ravens side when it comes to the Ravens side, I think I counted 41 players technically on their that are active right now on the Ravens roster, and if they want to dress 48, they're going to have to be some movements here,
Mm-hmm.
So and look, I think you're going to see Luke Wilson. I think you're going to see 2 or 3 tight ends of theirs promoted or elevated on Wednesday, and even so, none of those guys are. Luke Wilson might be the best of the bunch when it comes to the blocking tight end, and I wish the Steelers maybe would have looked at him, but he's not going to go to the Pro Bowl as a blocking tight end. And a lot of what they want to try to do probably is run the football, and that's going to be extremely tough to do with that offensive line. And look, who the hell is going to play center for him? Is it going to be the Cologne, or is it going to be Bid Brenderson? It's going to be a rookie, it seems like, one of those 2 guys. That's obviously a disadvantage for him. So. Yeah, I think the closer we get to game time, the more you see why this is a 10-point spread.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously the Ravens have their plan in place. Whoever is going to get activated is traveling with the team. And so we'll find out those moves here hopefully in a little bit, maybe even before today's show ends. For the Steelers side of things, they did get a couple of players back as well. Kevin Dotson, Isaiah Buggs have been activated from the reserve COVID list. The Steelers also elevated rookie safety Antoine Brooks Jr. and signed kicker Matthew Wright to the practice squad. That now gives them a specialist for each position on the practice squad. Kind of give some emergency insurance there. And so obviously good to have Buggs out there, especially with Stephon Tuitt, who does not appear like he's going to play today.
You think Buggs, I have Buggs as a guess of mine to be inactive. Do you think he's active? I've got Dobbs, obviously Jalen Samuels, Jaron Elliott, Buggs, and Kevin Rader.
Okay.
As the 5 inactives.
Rader won't hurt you. I know you want Kevin Rader.
Yeah, I couldn't find a way from push him. The further you get away from Thursday, it makes more sense to just put. They haven't dressed three tight ends all season, and somebody's got to sit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
It makes sense. It makes sense that it'd be him. But I mean, do you think it would be? Do you think? I guess it comes down to Carlos Davis or Buggs, right?
Yeah, it does. Theoretically, you could, I guess, dress both. I don't know who would else become odd man out on the roster.
It'd probably be a DB. Probably would be a DB. You would think.
Yeah, and they've had those DBs all active this year: James Pierre, Justin Lane. But Buggs could get. I would maybe go with Buggs over Davis just because Buggs is more versatile, but also Buggs hasn't practiced in a little bit, so maybe that's a factor because he's still a young guy. So I mean, it wouldn't surprise me either way, but at least the potential is there. If you want to have Buggs, he's available. And Kevin Dotson again, the guy that they probably will not, really want to play, and obviously he's not going to start, considering he's been out for 2 weeks. But at least that's a positive sign when guys are coming off the reserve COVID list. And I assume Buggs was a close contact, considering how quickly he was activated from reserve COVID.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that is the Steelers roster moves there. Is there any other housekeeping roster move stuff that I'm missing at this point?
Matt Canada will be back, evidently coaching. Danny Smith won't. And it sounds like there's going to be a couple of Ravens coaches miss this game as well, too, for them, according to what their team released the other day. So not only will the Ravens be missing players, but coaches on top of it. Just one more piece of what a tall task. Look, the Steelers better not lose this game, right? I mean, it's feasible, obviously, any given Wednesday, right?
It's just the old saying was, that great movie that everyone knows and loves. Yeah, the Ravens will not have their offensive line coach nor their running backs coach. So they announced that yesterday, and good to have Matt Canada back as well. Yeah, I mean, again, the Ravens are going to want to run the football. They're going to be aggressive defensively. They're going to try to create a splash play, just in the way the Steelers defense last year knew they had to create takeaways to pick up their depleted offense. And as you mentioned, Special teams, watch out for a fake. I mean, Sam Cook's had fakes before. Harbaugh, special teams coach, growing up before becoming the head coach of Baltimore. So you would expect Baltimore to do any sort of trick defensively on special teams to try to gain an edge in this one.
And look, we don't know how deep. I mean, we don't go that deep down into the practice squads and all like that to see how maybe some of these players might impact special teams for the Ravens. Which obviously will be the case, right? There's going to be some guys running around on special teams that probably, don't belong there, if you will. So how will that impact this game? Is there a situation, and we'll see what happens with the long snapper with the Ravens as well too. Is this a situation where maybe the Steelers can even dial something up with a punt block and maybe finally get to a guy like Sam Cook or something like, or maybe a long return? I mean, heck, Ray McLeod's come close to breaking a couple so far this year. So I think that's an aspect of this game that needs to be examined here. One other aspect, we talked about Mark Andrews being out. We talked about Willie Snead being out, Alex. Those guys have combined to have 24 of the Ravens' 49 total third down receptions this year. So right at almost half, right? So who is next on the Ravens team in third down catches? Marquis Brown with 10. You'd look at Marquis Brown, you don't generally think of him as a third down receiver, right?
Right.
All right. After him is J.K. Dobbins, who now we understanding won't play. He has 5. After him, it goes Duvernay with 4, Miles Boykin with 3, James Prochet with 1, and then Mark Ingram with 1, who's obviously not playing either. So I think a storyline that we really haven't talked a little bit about, Dez Bryant obviously signed to their roster now. That's probably him and Duvernay probably going to be the guys probably that Robert Griffin III kind of looks to the most on third down. So you would agree, I'm sure, that the Steelers' defensive game plan in this is, man, put 13 in the box, however many's legal,
Yeah. The only concern here, obviously, like, on paper, you'd rather face a team without Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, all the weapons and household names they have. But there is that concern about the unknown when you don't really know exactly who you're facing, what the Ravens personnel is going to be, what guys they're going to use, and the schematics they're going to use them, for. So you just kind of don't know how are they going to use Duvernay? I mean, will they use Prochet more in the slot? Just a guy that you haven't seen much on tape. And again, obviously Pittsburgh has the upper hand here, but you do kind of worry about that when you just don't quite know the opponent you're facing, which gives yourself some uncertainty.
True. But on the flip side, those guys haven't worked together,
True. Yeah.
So the whole timing issue and the whole is somebody going to miss a hot, audible, all that little stuff. And look, man, Robert Griffin, RG3 has, I think, attempted 1 third down pass this year. How many other plays has he played? Not kneel downs this year, not many, obviously. So there's the whole rest factor in there with him as well, too. So if I'm the Steelers, I make sure that this team does not run on me. They are not going to come away with this game with 100 or more yards in rushing come hell or high water. I'm going to make RG3 beat me through the air, and I'm going to take away Marquis Brown from him deep down the field. I'm going to bracket him. Everything that if the Ravens beat me, it's going to be because I turned the football over and because they did it through the air through guys like Dez Bryant, Prochet, Duvernay, those guys. End of the story. That's the only way they're going to beat me. If they beat me on the ground, shame on me.
Mm-hmm. Do you blitz a lot if you're Keith Butler?
I think you do. I want Robert Griffin III and those receivers to make a lot of quick decisions. Quick decisions in this game. I sure as hell do, Alex. I run blitz. I blitz all over the place. I do. Yeah, you bet your butt I do.
Okay, gotcha. And then
do you?
I would maybe play a little bit more conservatively just because you have to think your front four is going to get the job done against this Ravens offensive line that's really hurt, especially TJ Watt, especially Cam Hayward, whoever's going to be facing over right guard. I mean, Dupree's going to have a tougher time against Orlando Brown, but like your front four has got to be able to get home in this one.
Yeah, but I don't. I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave it to that. I want that
Okay.
ball out. I
All
want
right.
the
Fair.
ball out.
Fair point, fair point. And then I think the big concern for the Steelers offense is just worrying about the Ravens blitz because they're going to blitz a ton. They got to create chaos. They got to create a sack, fumble, a forced throw into a dropping defensive end like a Calais Campbell who's not playing, but you get the idea because he's got a tip pass at least that led to an interception this year. So you just got to be careful about the chaos the Ravens are going to try to create defensively because their secondary is still intact. They're still going to be aggressive. That mindset's not going to change.
Yeah, look, the thing that we've talked about is that secondary of theirs is still intact. That secondary is still their secondary. Humphreys is fantastic at punching the football out. Everybody else they've got over there. When Jimmy Smith's your third corner, you're doing all right, probably. Overall, their safety seem to be playing well. Offensively, I know it probably feels like taking your head and slamming it up against the wall a little bit though. But how much should you need to pass in this game? With that front of theirs being down players and all like that, I want to work them over. They're probably going to be tired pretty quick. They're not going to want to stay on blocks most of the game. And I got a fresh guy back there in Benny Snell Jr. who there are no two ways about it. This is a big game for Benny Snell. I don't care who's on the field. I mean, he has got to this has got to be a statement game, in my opinion, for Benny Snell. This has got to be, look, past this year, I can beat a feature back. And I'm going to prove it to you by running for 180 against a team that we should run against here. So I'm coming out. I know it. Once again, I know it kind of goes against structure here, but because that secondary is still intact with them, why throw if you don't have to? They came out in that game earlier against the Ravens earlier in the season and tried to run, and they couldn't. They got behind on the scoreboard, and then they went to the 0-1 personnel. Obviously, I think they should use that at some point during the game. But I think I put my tight ends out there. I put Derek Watt out there because how many plays has he played? That guy, if there's a guy that should be fresh and raring to go to hit somebody in this game from a fullback position and not as a wing tight end or something like that, it's Derek Watt. So I want to come out. See if I can run the football against them early often and wear them down that way. And then if I need to, I spread them out with some 0-1 or some 10 personnel or something along those lines.
Sure, there's no doubt they have to be better in the trenches offensively and defensively, Pittsburgh does, than they were in the first meeting. And there's every reason to believe that they should be better. They're a healthier team. They have the better talent. They practiced. They're at home. I mean, if you're not winning the trenches in this game, then something's gone terribly wrong.
Right.
Anything else from this game, Dave? I think we've been recapping it every episode, so I feel like we're just going around in circles waiting for this game to be played. But just play mistake-free football and don't let any anger or frustration about what's happened this week with Baltimore carry over onto the field in the sense of having dumb penalties. Obviously, use that as any motivation or fuel, but obviously, you don't want that to spill over into stuff that's going to hurt your team. Obvious to say.
Recap that again.
Well, I'm just saying, don't let any anger about Baltimore's errors lead to a stupid personal foul penalty or something dumb like that. Just play smart, take care of the football. You should win this game. Right.
This is a game that Steelers beating Steelers can certainly would be the outcome.
Right.
And turnovers, whatever. Mistakes on the Steelers. That's the way that you lose this game, plain and simple. Because if you don't have the 15-yard penalties, if you don't have the six holding calls, if you don't have the interception on your side of the 50, I mean, turnovers play a big part in every game. But I mean, in a situation like this, where the rosters are just really mismatched here, the Steelers can get a win another way, and that's by beating themselves.
Yeah, it's a similar approach that they've had the last couple weeks against Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Dallas. I mean, when you've clearly had the edge in terms of talent in the overall roster matchup. that's what it comes down to, is win in situational football, third down, red zone, take care of the football. Again, Baltimore's going to be aggressive. They're going to take the football away, or at least attempt to take the football away, especially with Peters and Humphrey at cornerback. And yeah, just don't beat yourself in, and you should win this one.
Right.
By some amount, at least.
By 1 to 99, somewhere around in there.
Hey, a win is a win. That's what Vin Diesel in Fast and Furious said.
I have never watched a Fast and Furious movie.
You've never? I'm surprised by that. I mean,
none of them.
You mean it's just movies you shut your brain off for 2 hours, but they're a lot of fun. The last couple ones aren't as good as the originals, obviously, but that'll be. I can actually return the favor and tell you to give you some movie homework to do.
I mean, how many are there? Like 40?
It's like 73. It's ridiculous.
I just, I just have never been a big Vin Diesel. I grew up, I was old Schwarzenegger and Stallone and man, you name the action heroes of the 80s and the 90s and whatnot. And I was there for all of it, but I never have gotten into him though.
All right, fair enough. All right, Dave. Anything else to talk about today? I mean, I think we've covered the news, covered the overall analysis.
I had a lot of airplane references stored up for this one, and Commando. You've never seen Commando, have you? Get to the chopper. Classic Arnold Schwarzenegger. Boy, I am not going to be able to use any of them. I was trying to use a lot of them on Twitter as the Ravens plane was in the air.
You were tracking them pretty good. It was like a Santa Claus thing going on over there.
Boy, some things I never thought I'd do 12, 13 years ago when I started the site and all. I started talking about pandemics and travel. It's unreal. You just never know, right? I guess that's a little bit of the beauty of what you and I do every day. We wake up and not know which way the day's going to go sometimes. And I'm a pretty structured guy, and I'd like to think that you probably are as well too, even in your young age there. But anyway, you just never know. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that this will not be the last, or that this will be the last preview of Ravens Steelers.
It's been a week, and I do not know what day it is anymore. I have run out of being centered about what day it is and what's going on in the world. But hopefully talking Ravens Steelers after today.
Is this the most memorable Wednesday game in the NFL has had in your lifetime?
It's only been one other to choose from, 2012, and that was the opener, so that was a lot less chaos. So, yeah, safe to say.
All right, well, we're going to move pretty fast here. Tell the people before we get to a couple quick emails here what we think our plans are for the next couple of days here.
I think our plan is to keep the podcast schedule the same. So we'll do Friday, recap the game Friday, and then hopefully Monday, which of course is going to be the game against Washington at 5 p.m. Eastern time. We can try to get on a beat writer for Washington, maybe Friday, maybe Monday. Just have to see on kind of what their schedule is. But I think we're going to, for as much postponements as there's been around the NFL and with Pittsburgh and Baltimore, we're going to keep our schedule the same, hopefully with a Friday show followed by a Monday show.
Yeah, the thing, and Alex and I quickly talked about maybe potentially doing a Thursday show to recap the game. The problem is with that is we think that Mike Tomlin's going to have a press conference on Thursday. Mm-hmm. So we would miss some degree of something in there to pass along any pertinent information in there. It's just the next several days are just going to move so fast. So we'll look, pay attention to Steelers Depot. Here's the thing: we are going to be able to get a lot of work done, Alex and I and the rest of the group, assuming this game kicks off as scheduled at 3:40 Eastern time on Wednesday. We'll be able to get a lot of stuff up on the site from the game, and then obviously into Thursday as well too. So if you're starved for looking at that, and I think you'll probably have your little 10-minute video, right?
Mm-hmm.
Recapping the kind of game for people to look for on the site as well too. So Alex and I will get back after it on Friday. We'll hopefully have the all 22 to go over by then. We'll recap what Mike Tomlin had said on either Thursday or Friday at that point, and just go that way. And then we'll try to effort a Washington beat writer for either Friday or Monday ahead of the game as well too. So we appreciate everybody's patience through this.
For sure. The good thing about this week is that, our crew and I, Josh, Tom, myself, already got our Washington scouting report done. Like, we're already ready for them. So it's like literally it's done. And so, we'll be ready for that. And that'll give us all the time to focus on this Ravens game.
All right. How about we get an email or two in here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, from Carlos Torres, number 1 versus number 2 seed. I ran the playoff simulator multiple times, and in fact, if we finish 15-1 with KC, the only game we can afford to lose and still get the number 1 seed is against the Washington football team. Well, that would make sense, be out of conference and all like that. Any other loss would end up with the number 2 seed. I have not touched those, Carlos. I will take your word for it when it comes to that. As Alex and I, look, it's all fun to talk about 1 and 2 seeds and everything like that, but they got a game Wednesday that they better win, here. So we'll obviously we'll start looking ahead at some point once they start securing obviously a playoff spot, which seems obvious at this point. But once again, this team can clinch absolutely nothing on Wednesday. Right. And then we'll see how things proceed from there.
They can clinch eliminating the Ravens from AFC North, contention with a win, though, still, right? That's not clinching anything, but eliminates Baltimore.
Right. That Baltimore just can't win the AFC North, period.
Right. But obviously Cleveland could still win it, so the Steelers will not have clinched the North yet.
Jeff Berg writes in, player safety. Hey, y'all, just looked at and the Steelers will be playing 3 games in 12 days. The Ravens did indeed get the game moved back for player safety. How will 3 games in 12 days be good? Really going to tax the back half of the season. To get a first-round bye will be imperative, I think, just to give our guys a break. Has this happened to the Steelers before, 3 games in 12 days?
Sure. Yeah, I think you said that it basically has. I guess it's not anything too different from a day standpoint of a Sunday, Thursday, following Sunday game, right? That's about the same.
Right. Wouldn't it have been about the same anyway?
Yeah. So, I mean, from that standpoint, it's not that unusual. Obviously, the structure you're playing on a Wednesday, Monday, Sunday thing, that is unusual, and just this whole week's been out of whack. But from a pure days to games ratio, I think it's about the norm.
I get that everybody wants to keep pumping up it's the world against the Steelers thing. Okay? How can I politely put this? I mean, get over it.
Is that polite? That's pretty polite.
I mean, at this point, what are you going to do? What is bitching about it going to do? I mean, at this point, all you can do is play with the deck of cards, the hand of cards that you've been dealt at this point. Look, it is. I will reiterate, it's very unfortunate, and the whole player. Look, I think the whole player safety thing rolls back into kind of what Alex and I have said about the transparency and all like that. This is a league too that is. The whole Thursday game concept is just mind blowing, right? I mean, technically, from a health and players standpoint, Thursday games are just ridiculous. I'm okay with it with Thanksgiving, but why not have a bye stacked up against it on one side? However, okay, what does it all go back to, Alex?
The money.
All right, so. We can take issue, and the players can take issue, and I think even Dr. Mel chimed in on Twitter this past week on something that I tweeted, something about can't believe the league didn't do a better job, or the NFLPA negotiating yada yada in the CBA. You know me and my view on that. I think the players have sucked when it comes to the CBA the last couple of times, which I guess really 2010, whenever it was, 2011 was the time that I really started to learning more about the CBA than I ever thought I wanted to learn, almost by force because of that whole lockout thing, and obviously being a salary cap guy and minutia and everything that we like to talk about there. I've gotten deeper into it, and it's funny to see that the players take the kind of stance that they may have or reportedly took this past week with the whole Wildcat strike thing. That They can do something like that, but they can't stand up for themselves and strike when it comes to what matters most with the CBA, right? And getting things tilted in, and make no mistake about it. Yeah, did the players get a few things this time around in the CBA? Yeah, but do you think who was the big winner coming out of this year's CBA? The owners, and that's the only way that it's going to happen unless the players hit them where it hurts bad, and that technically means striking for a long period of time, costing them a full season. End of story. Other than that, the owners are always going to win. These players cave too quick, all like that. So, yeah, I get it, the whole player safety aspect. I think it's foolish. I think the whole muscle strain thing that we've talked about the last couple of days has been crazy. And, yeah, it is. I will end it with, yeah, the Steelers have gotten the short end of the stick, not just once, but twice, and we'll see how many more times moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, what can you do? This is the situation. You play the hand you're dealt. But I understand the frustration. I'm frustrated, and I try to be as level-headed and mild-mannered as possible and sympathetic, again, to the situation, because there are no easy answers in playing, football in a pandemic. But man,
I mean, you even used an F word, I think, the last 2 weeks. You even used the F word.
Yeah, I just in the forfeit for those not sure what that was. Anyway.
Have you ever used the other F word?
How I ever use the other F word? Fun? Is that the one you're talking about? No. I'm try to keep things clean cut, especially here for the podcast. I've always had the mentality of, because I always wanted to get into broadcasting, that if you're someone that naturally swears a lot, then you might slip up on air. I remember there was one guy, like his first day ever as an anchor, and he didn't realize his mic was hot. He dropped an F-bomb. He got fired immediately. Like, never wanted to be that guy that just accidentally does that, because that's just part of your vocabulary.
Wait a minute, we've been told that, or at least I've been told, my broadcasting career is over with.
Well, you're not FCC regulated, so you're in the clear. You're doing the HBO thing.
I guess your broadcasting career is still alive, so. Or future.
Well, this was growing up. This was like high school, mentality that I kind of adopted then and just carried along with me. Yeah.
Now, where were you? Before I interrupted you about the F word?
To the forfeiture thing. Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up just in the context of, could that even be a scenario in play, just given the fact that the Ravens clearly flouted the rules. But obviously that's not going to happen. Really was never any high percentage chance of that happening. And so hopefully they play the game. But it's frustrating. I mean, that's a good F word to use, is frustration, based on the league the last 48 hours of postponing the game despite no real new positive cases, and then playing the game now despite new positive COVID cases. So talk about inconsistency.
What was that other F word you just used? Flout?
Flout? Yeah, flout, to ignore, to not follow the rules.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm learning here. Let's see. Bryce Harrison writes in, podcast question for James Harrison. Hi, Dave and Alex. Thank you guys for your coverage of the team. I really look forward to the content that you guys produce on Steelers Depot, especially the podcast. Bravo. Well, thank you for that, Bryce. What is your assessment of James Washington 2.5 years into his NFL career? Do we know who he is, how close he is to his ceiling? I think the sum of Juju, Claypool, and Deontay combined to make 3 number 1 receivers, as any one of them could take the game over. I wonder if you guys think there are several rosters in the NFL on which Washington could be a legitimate number 2 receiver. Good question, Bryce. You want to tackle that one first?
Yeah, so he's just asking my overall evaluation of James Washington.
Yeah, who he is, how close he is to the ceiling. Take that part of it first.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's just that role player of that vertical threat for an offense. So he's never going to be the guy, probably not even the quote-unquote number 2 receiver, but just kind of that situational, vertical, deep threat. And that's an important part of an offense, but not something you're going to build your offense around entirely, of course.
After watching every damn target the kid had at Oklahoma State, literally, I think he is at his ceiling at the NFL. I think we do know who he is now. I don't think he'll ever be as big a big play guy as he was at Oklahoma State, because he does not have that blazing speed. I think he is a souped up version of I think he is Marcus Wheaton with better hands.
Okay.
Probably smarter than Marcus Wheaton on an X's and O's aspect. Not the super twitchy kind of guy. I mean, is he a 10-year player in the NFL? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
No disrespect to him, but extremely great hands. I think we kind of knew that, right? Kind of those lobster has always been kind of a running joke. That guy will snatch it out of the middle of the air on you. Not the guy that's going to provide that super amazing acrobatic catch for you. When I think about field stretchers and Z receivers, I automatically want to go to what Marquis Bryant was and coulda or should have been. You know, that antelope gait kind of to him, kind of thing. You know, he's not that. He's not a burner. So yeah, I think we do know who he is right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some room in growth.
40 catch guy.
Right, a 40 catch, 14 yards per reception, 4 touchdown kind of guy. I mean, he's not any central part of your offense, but a vertical component to it that offenses like the Steelers need to have in order to really be successful.
A 3rd or 4th round guy.
Yeah, basically. He's like, poor man's Will Fuller, but better hands than Will Fuller and better health than Will Fuller.
I mean, this is a guy that can still give his physicality. I mean, look, how many times already this year has he made some catches and done some good things after the catch? Physical guy, a guy that's not afraid. I love the kid, all right, but he's not. Okay, let's take the back end of that question. Could he be a legitimate number 2 wide receiver for another team in the NFL?
Probably not.
I would agree. Probably not. Coming out of Oklahoma State, I probably would have been inclined to say yes, he could be. But I think we do know who he is at this point. Now, look, the guy could come out today and have 4 catches for 88 yards and a touchdown.
Sure, and he's had those games this year.
Right.
Obviously, he can have some big games if he gets vertical. But, I mean, he is a vertical guy that, is never going to be the central, focal part of your offense.
Right. Let me see if we got any more in here. We wanted to try to keep this show kind of listenable to in a short amount of time. Oh, here's one for Alex from Mike Adesso. Can't live without Danny Smith. Hi, guys. Assuming Danny Smith is healthy and in a remote location, isolating and still chewing gum, do you think the Steelers would work out a way to have him in constant contact with Blaine Stewart throughout the game, maybe via a headset or something? Maybe the same with Canada and Randy too. Obviously, this came in before the Canada news, so Canada will be back. Thanks for all the hard work during this unprecedented season. We look forward to your 40th preview of the Steelers Ravens Week 12 game. That's about right, Mike. No, we don't expect Danny Smith to have any kind of special setup. And what's your thoughts on the whole Blaine? You're a Blaine Stewart fan, though, I think.
Yeah,
so,
I've been talking up for a while.
A Blaine Stewart stan.
You're the Kevin Rader stan. I'm the Blaine Stewart stan. The one man stan clubs. Yeah, I think he's a rising star in the organization. I think he's probably gonna take a job somewhere else in college after this year. I mean, depending on the COVID landscape and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think they're going to do any sort of remote coaching with Danny Smith, and so Blaine Stewart just better pack his bubble gum and be ready to coach this thing. And be careful because again, Ravens are going to try to exploit special team stuff. Steelers don't have the special teams coach. I mean, Baltimore's probably going to try something tricky today.
I can hear it now. The Steelers special teams have a great game against Baltimore. We will then have fans so happy that they'll be calling for the heads of Keith Butler, Randy Fiedner, and Danny Smith all in one game. That'll
bring some normalcy to the show.
Yeah, that'll bring some normalcy that everybody will want. Everybody fired at 11-0. All coordinators fired. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Watch out for that trap game.
Absolutely. We'll end it on that note. Watch out for the trap game today. All right. In the meantime, as Alex and I said, we'll be back on, I think, Friday here. Hopefully everybody be able to digest this podcast quickly before the game takes place. And for that to happen, we have to get off of it. That means me quit running my mouth. So follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex Kozora on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit that donate button, upper right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, please go to the site, hit ad-free button, upper right navigational bar for $25 for 1 calendar year. We might raise that at the top of the year as well, too. So, highly advisable to get in maybe by the end of the year. For $25 for 1 calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com. It's been very popular as well, too. Thank you for everybody for sticking with us throughout all this. A lot of people are sending us screenshots of, I guess, Spotify lets people know what podcast they listen to the most throughout the year, Alex, and we're getting a lot of screenshots from that. That's kind of surreal to see. I think we appreciate everybody who listens on whatever platform that you listen to, right? So within that, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.